Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to spend some time with us again. As I'm sure you all know, we this is the fourth masterclass. For those that have missed the last few masterclasses, the masterclass are all available on the CPD portal, which you can access the recordings of our masterclasses. And as always, the person that's with me and that's at my side in these masterclasses and that's joined me is Sumaya. For those that we haven't met before, I'm Robin Laddie. This is Sumaya Ishmael. We both in the proposition team. I work on the client experience side, and Sumaya is our front end owner. And in our front end owner, she essentially owns the web. So everything that you see on the web goes through at least Sumaya's set of eyes. So you in really good hands today. I am going to share my screen, and just as a reminder, we do have a Q&A option available. The chat functionality is disabled, but you have a Q&A where you'd be able to ask as many questions as you like. Those questions will either be answered in text, so Sumaya may respond to some of them in text. Alternatively, we'll save some of them to in live. And what Sumaya does really well is she links them and lumps them and categorizes them together so that we can tackle multiple questions at the same time. So please use the chat if you want to use any of the reactions. You're more than welcome to use any of the reactions. So let's kick off. We've only got an hour, and it's quite a nice session to go through. Okay. In the last few masterclasses and over the last few weeks, as a reminder, I'm going to go from left to right. You would have we would have taken you through a really nice journey to build some of the knowledge and share some insights of the innate investment platform. In the first masterclass, we went through what we called mastering client onboarding. So those are things like creating the prospect, being able to convert that prospect to a client, and then being able to track those transactions and see some of the documents that's stored in the document library. We then went almost into those post new business transactions, and that went into submitting and tracking those instructions. And there we helped you go through things like being able to switch, being able to withdraw. We went through some retirement journeys. If you're looking to change fees, etc., that's the next part that we had gone through in Masterclass 2. In Masterclass 3, which was last week, we went through accessing and interpreting reports. There we gave you a summary of the statements that's available to clients, being the ad hoc statement and the detailed statement. We spoke a little bit through the investment reviews and then some additional information that you could see, like the transaction confirmations, etc. And lots of content that we had shared with those interpreting reports. We touched a little bit on the Morningstar capability, and I've done a tiny, tiny demo on what it looks like. But then that heads me into masterclass number 4, which is today, which we've labeled as Stay Ahead with Our Personalized Tools. And what you're going to be able to see in today's session is the advisory reports that's available. We're going to go through the tracker in a little bit more detail. We'll go through our calendar and what's available in the calendar, some of the calculators that we have, and then to end off, we'll chat through our fund research tool, and some of the access and the data that you have access to as well. So a nice jam-packed session. Again, for those who joined who joined recently, you're welcome to add any Q&A, and we'll answer any of the questions in text or in the live session. Okay, so first things first is just like our way of how we think about tools and how we've built our tool capability. And on this slide, what you'd be able to see is you can see what we call the toolkit. And what we try to do when we build our innate tools is we try to do maybe 2 or 3 things, or 1 or 2 things. Is one, where it's transaction specific, where we know we need to do things like calculating capital gains or losses, showing you what that impact is for the in-scope products, for example, your investment account, endowment, and sinking fund. Those tools are built into the journey so that as you're going through that level of advice and as are providing that advice, you can quickly see if I'm withdrawing, for example, 100,000 Rand from an investment account, I know what the implication and what the tax implication is. In last week's session, we also spoke about we give you the option to do provisional tax statements as well. And then the web will also show you your tax year to date tax affairs for capital gain or capital loss. And we'll take that into account when we also do your calculation of capital gain or loss. We also built in Journey Regulation 28 calculations. So that tool essentially says and I know I used the term a little bit harshly last week or the week before, where I said the web is going to hard block you. So it's going to block you from going into a non-compliant asset selection. You're going to be forced into going into a compliant portfolio. So what you also be able to do, it's a second bullet point, is view the impact of withdrawals. We've got a pre-retirement withdrawal calculator. I'm going to show you what that looks like. It's a really nice tool that just gives you a little bit more ammo if you're looking to talk to your clients. Your client says, I've got a two-pot withdrawal that I'm looking to do, and you want to show them what is the impact of that two-pot withdrawal. It will give you the option of what that looks like. Very similarly, we also built a really nice rebalance calculator for you. Some of the feedback that we've had from you is we're looking for something a little bit more that will help us be able to rebalance. And with the inability to submit a rebalance, we want to just give a little bit of sense or help us show what that portfolio should look like as we go through rebalancing. And I'll touch a little bit on that as well. As I said earlier, we'd be able to leverage the Morningstar insights into your journeys. And here you can do quite a lot of work within Morningstar, whether you're looking to get into the lower levels of detail, like seeing things like geographical allocation, if you're looking to see risk measurements, or something as small as we want to have a look at, I've got access to these 5 funds in my portfolio or in my client's portfolio. What am I overly exposed to the same underlying companies? So really good content in our Morningstar research capability. We also have, oops, excuse me, we've got the document library that stores all our correspondence in one place. We went through that last week as well, showing you there's a really nice place where instead of you going to go and look for different places or going to look through your emails, you can see the documents all in one place. I'm going to touch on this just a little bit later on as well. One of the important information or bits of feedback we've received so far is sometimes we send communication to client and we don't and we aren't able to see that communication. I'll touch on that a little bit on how we're looking to do preferences as well. Then we've got next is custom data feeds, and here there's a reminder for the custom data feeds. What you'd be able to do is we provide data feeds to multiple different, we call them data warehouses. So things like being able to see in Elite, being able to track via Astute, and that tracking you have to be listed as the advisor at INN8 to access that information. We also do data feeds that will help with financial planning. It will help you be able to consolidate lots of client accounts as well. As I said, next is the fund research tools. So here you've got real-time access to data. And real time is really important in this world where, I mean, we had a transaction or request that came through yesterday, or it may have been the day before on Monday, where someone said, I'm looking to get access to data very relatively quickly because they had a view on whether we're going to be removed or whether we're going to stay on the grey listing, and said, I just want to get a sense of what's happening. And in our fund research tools, you got access to real-time information so that you don't have to go back and worry about these outdated information. The only way, as a maybe as a caveat, is the only way the data is going to be outdated is if that management company, like Stanlib as an example, has not sent an updated document like a fact sheet to Morningstar as the provider of data, or alternatively, it's a fund that has we haven't received updated prices as an example, but you largely have access to real-time information. Third last bullet point is the advisor calendar that will help you organize your events. This is a really nice tool that's going to give you, and we almost hope to keep on enhancing it and adding functionality where you can start seeing real information to your clients that's linked to things that has an anniversary linked to it, like an annuity income revision. If there's a Regulation 28 breach, we'll talk through a little bit on what it looks like a little bit later. Second last point, access to real-time reports about your clients and their accounts. So here you've got access to advisor reports, and there's loads of advisor reports that will give you access to some really key information that will help you manage things effectively. Things like if you want to have a look whether an account is coming up for a fee renewal, like via your Section 14 RA to RA underwritten RAs, or you've got a client, for example, that's on a tax override that's expiring, for example, at the end of the tax year. Some really nice reports that we have available for you. Lastly, as we said already, I think our instruction tracker is a really powerful tool. It gives you access to statuses in real time, and you get a sense of where we are as a platform processing your transaction and where in that journey we are as well. So something like a switch, if you are in the switch process, you'd be able to track all the sub statuses of that switch, whether that's in we are in the process of selling assets or we are in the process of buying assets. It'll give you a sense of what that looks like as well. So giving a sense, just an overview in this case, before we delve into a little bit more detail on what you get to see within the innate proposition. So let's get into the detail. First things I want to show you is, and I'm going to play a recording for you and hoping it's nice and clear for you, is to show you what the calendar looks like. So as you can see, as it's navigating on the home screen, you'd be able to go onto the calendar. You then would be able to click on the view calendar option, and then it'll open up a few different things for you. And I think the first thing to mention over here with the calendar is what you have the option to do and is demonstrated in this pre-recording is showing you can go forward to see any events that are coming up in the future, but you can also go back over the last 12 months to see, have I missed anything that I need to go and keep an eye on? So as an example, you can see there's a few transactions as we go back and forth, and you can see it's going all the way to December. You can see automatically it's showing, hold on, there's a few clients that's coming up for a FICA renewal process. And what that FICA renewal is, just as a reminder, your clients essentially will receive largely three, maybe sometimes four risk profiles. They could either be a low risk investor, which essentially 98% of our investors are. And the risk of the investor depends on the supporting documents that you'd need to supply us. Firstly, for low risk, it's typically a copy of an ID, and those clients need to go through a renewal process every 5 years. So low risk, 5 years, medium risk every 3 years, high risk is every year. And this is what this calendar is showing you. It's showing you that you can basically go into the calendar, see all these different events, and then on the top right, where you've got those colorful buttons, you'd be able to filter out or filter in any communication or any documents as well. So you can see there we've clicked on FICA renewal, we're filtering out the FICA renewals and filtering it back in again. When you click on that renewal, it will basically tell you the name of the client that is coming up for renewal. So you can see on the 4th of December in this scenario, there was one client, but on the on the 1st, there was two clients that had come up for a renewal. And when you click on that renewal, it will tell you the name of the client. But then something really nice and powerful we've built into the calendar is, instead of going to look at this at a month by month a period, you can choose the period that you're looking to generate your reviews for. You can then choose whichever transaction you want to go and generate. In this scenario, you can see there are four transactions or four instructions. It's living annuity for your clients that are coming up for an anniversary or a renewal of the annuity income. For regulation 28, we are going to tell you where in the process and how many quarters your client has breached regulation 28 or not. FICA renewal, that's that 1, 3, 5 year renewal that I referred to. Retirement essentially is saying that in the retirement, you have clients that in the new business journey, you choose um, when your client is going to retire, whichever age, let's say 55, 60, 65, as long as it's a minimum of 55 years old. And that will then give you an option to show all these clients coming up for review, and then also let you know that we'll provide a retirement benefit guide to those clients as well. Just want to quickly send a reminder over here. From next month, as in November, you'll see one more category, and that category is for your fee renewals for your RA accounts. As a reminder, those RAs, the renewals that we would need to do are only Section 14 renewals for RA to RA transfers and where it's a underwritten RA only. So the non-underwritten, you don't need to go through that renewal process. Then also, what you can see on the screen is you've got the option to download the CSV. You can also add to the calendar, so you can add to your own individual calendar, or you can just remove the information if you don't want to see it. So giving you a sense of what the calendar looks like and also some functionality that you can see with the calendar. It'll help you plan ahead, but also go back and say, hold on, I may have missed some key events that I need to be aware of as we move ahead as well. So that's giving a sense of what the calendar looks like. I will in a few minutes go into the calendar and show you what that looks like in a few minutes as well. So don't worry, we'll spend some time going through the calendar as well. As I mentioned, under the FICA renewals process, you are going to see what the status is of those clients. And here we've made it really nice. We've built a really, really nice journey for you. And I'm hoping you find the benefit. That same principle that I mentioned in Masterclass 1 is if we are a digital investment platform, we want to make things available to you digitally. In the fee renewal process, what we've essentially done is, and we've tried to interrogate the legislation quite a bit here, because what most platforms or most providers do is they ask you, they'll go, Robin, your clients are coming up for a fee renewal. Please resend a copy of the ID document or the supporting documents that were written in the past. And over there, what typically happens is you have to go and ask the client, do you have an updated copy of the ID? Whereas in our case, we've said, hold on, what is the thing that triggers your FICA process, or what is the information that triggers a new risk rating? And that's typically and only what we call static information or personal details. And that's, for example, where the person lives, the occupation, the industry, where they are, like the position that they hold, if they've got multiple tax obligations. Those are the static or personal information that you'd need to complete as part of a renewal process. And in this case, what we do with FICA renewals, we're saying you're either compliant, outstanding, or you are in progress. And simply what we've done is we've provided a digital journey for you to help you to go and renew that process. So if I go ahead and you see, you click on one item, that one item is going to say, you've got a client that's coming up for renewal. It'll give you the client name, ID or registration number. It'll tell you the status, as in this person needs to go through FICA renewal. Under the actions, you can, on the far right, you can click on view and update the details. And simply what it does is it will take you to, excuse me, a screen. And that screen you can see would be, for those that seen the innate web, it's a very familiar screen. It's our client detail screen. And what this will do is it'll simply ask you to tick in a box to confirm, has any of the information changed, or is the information correct? So simply, instead of you resending or resending, for example, a copy of the ID again, or the passport, or any birth certificate information, you simply click in the box on the bottom to say, I've renewed the details, and it'll automatically save for us on our side. What that will then do is, once it's saved, you'll be able to see on the client profile, it'll tell you the FICA status is outstanding. And as soon as we get that confirmation and we can check whether no other personal details are changed, this will change to that this person is no longer outstanding, isn't it's a compliant person. So here, this is typically where you can see what the status is. How you do that is on the top right. You can go and search for your client. Alternatively, you can click on the client on the left-hand side and go and search for your client, and that'll give you the option to go and do the renewal of that FICA as well. So just showing you that should take you, I don't know, if no personal details have changed, it should be a really, really quick process to go and change what that looks like. In the same breath, very similar concept for our living annuities. How this works, and maybe this is where I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I want to quickly do a reminder of how the annuity revision process works. The first, we had some feedback initially on living annuities, and as we built the innate investment platform, we essentially built it with maybe one or two things in mind or concepts in mind. Is one, when you log into the web, you've got access to the calendar, and that calendar will tell you all the activities that are coming up for you to see where we are at the moment. So it's going to tell you you've got people coming up for revision or non-revision. What we will do for clients that are coming up for revision, 3 months before you go through the revision, there'll be a reminder in your calendar. So it's a month before we send communication to your client. So in this case, 3 months before, you're going to get a reminder in the calendar that says you've got one or multiple clients coming up for an annuity review. What you will then do is, so that's 3 months before it appears in the calendar for you. And as a reminder, you can download this and save it to your personal calendars, whether it's an Outlook calendar, a Gmail calendar, any one of those. 2 months before the anniversary, we'll send the first communication to your client to let them know you have the opportunity to review your annuity income, and this is your opportunity to go and review it. Um, 1 month before as well, we send the last reminder saying this is your last reminder to review the income, and you've got the option to review that income. And then the month of the anniversary, our anniversaries at INN8 is always on the first of the month. So it's around the fourth of the month. We'll send communication to your client to say the new income for the next 12 months will be X value, whether it's a percent or a rand value. And then we'll let your client know that essentially this is what they're going to receive. Some advisors have said we aren't copied into that communication. So we're operating under the assumption that we'll always go into the calendar or into the document library to find that communication. And definitely we are aware of that, and we aren't blind to that. We would like to work on an enhancement where we can do some additional, we call them preferences, where you can choose to include yourself or an assistant into communication so that at least you get to see all the important communication that we are sending over to your clients. But what this looks like is once you click on this item in dark blue in the top right corner, it'll bring up the client that's coming up for review. You can click on the account number and it'll simply go into that review process for you. So you can click on the account number, click on manage the annuity income, and it'll allow you to amend the income at that same time for the client. Here, maybe just one small reminder is when you review the income, you can review the income whenever you wish. So in this case, for example, let's say the revision is in July on the screen on the bottom right, and you'd like to review that income now, being it's October because you met with your client and your client said, "Hold on, I think I need access to more or less income." You can simply log into the web, submit that now. You can also do multiple annuity revisions. You don't have to do it only once. You aren't blocked, and you also are no longer blocked to having that income reviewed sort of that 3 months, 2 months, 1 month before the anniversary. You can review that income whenever you wish to review that income, and it's available for you instantly. It also will populate under our tracker. So if you are worried, "Ah, shucks, I can't recall whether I had submitted this revision," you can simply log into our tracker and see whether that revision had been done. So, as a reminder, I just added some of the dates with the letter on what this looks like. So, this is the final review, as you can see. On the left-hand side, we've given just a reminder of what the process looks like. In April, in this scenario, 3 months before, there will be it'll automatically populate onto the calendar for you. In May, that's when the reminder is sent to your client saying you've got a review available. And then I would also like to just reconfirm over here, these documents are available in your client document library if you'd like to go and view those documents. A month before, we send the final reminder, which is this reminder on the right-hand side. And this is where we'd say, this is the account details. You can see what the value is. And we let you know this person is coming up for a renew. And then, as I said, in the month of anniversary, which is typically around the fourth of the month, we send a confirmation letter that says, this is your market value, this is what the annuity income, and this is what your new setup will be for the next 12 months going forward. As a reminder, that gives you the option to change the frequency of the payment, monthly, quarterly, biannual, annual, or rand amount percentage. And there you'd have to cater for the income bands of 2.5 to 17.5%. If you do have clients that we call them are on a legacy bracket, which is the bracket, I think it was pre 2009 or 2010, if I recall correctly, that's the 5%, 20% bracket. We've got the functionality to assist with those older income brackets as well, specifically for those where you are part of the Elevate Tranche 3 process and you have clients on a legacy income bracket as well. Okay, then I think it was the second last thing to chat through before I go into the web was to go through our retirement reminders. And what the retirement reminder does is this is part of the legislation that says you let us know roughly when your client is looking to retire, if it's 55 years old, if it's later than 55 years old. In our new business journey, actually in our quote journey as well, you get to stipulate what the estimated retirement age is. And what we do as a platform is we store that retirement date or that estimated retirement date. We hold that information so that 6 months before retirement, we send and we make provision, we make available what's called a retirement benefit guide. That retirement benefit guide is a document that we have to make available that says, here are all the important information that you can consider as part of retirement. If you click on clients coming up for retirement, it'll give you option to say, these are all the people that's coming up for retirement. When you view that retirement benefit guide, it'll give you access to some information linked to the important information. So that retirement benefit guide is provided in the document library as well. The last thing I want to speak to is before I go into the demo is a sense of what our regulation 28 breaches are. So when you log into the web and you go into regulation 28 and you filter them on, it'll tell you, for example, in this scenario, on the second, you have one client that is coming up for a review, for a breach. When you go into the breach, it will tell you the name of the client. So here you can see it is for name of client. It tells you the account number or multiple account numbers, and then the quarters in breach. Here, just a reminder, the way the Regulation 28 process works is we'll calculate the Regulation 28 compliance or non-compliance every quarter. That's at the beginning of the new quarter. So if we calculate the compliance from 1 Jan to end of March, in April, we'll get a sense of what your Reg 28 compliance is. We'll provide you with also an update on where in the process your client is non-compliant. So here you can see client is 1 quarter in breach. If your client goes more than 4 quarters in breach, we are automatically going to rebalance that account and switch the non-compliance value or allocation to a standard money market fund. So just a reminder, we're going to go through quarter-on-quarter breaches. And if this client goes through 1 quarter breach, that is 1 quarterly breach that goes into compliance. Maybe I'll make an example. Quarter 1, the client is non-compliant. Quarter 2, non-compliant. In quarter 3, if they become compliant, we are going to reset that process. They'll go back to quarter 1 when we do the compliance at the later stage. So similar over here, you go in, you can log into the web. This is a static or a field on the web under this little section, the highlighted section. It will always be available to you to let your client know or to let you know and your client whether they are compliant or not. So it will tell you if the client is always compliant, it will say they are compliant, there are no quarters in breach, or non-compliant, we are on quarter 3 that they are no longer in breach. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. What you're going to see coming soon in November, which is next month, we are going to do a view to show you what your section 14 fees that are coming up for renewal. And I know Ari, you asked a question, and I'm going to take that question right now. Your question is, what is a non-underwritten RA? And just going to speak to that in a second. I am trying to multitask as best as I can over here. So Ari, I saw your question drop in. It was relatively early, and that's why I haven't gone through any of the other questions. But essentially, in the retirement world, the legislation this is actually in the Pension Funds Act, and it is Section 14, and it's the reason we call it the Section 14 transfers. So in the Pension Funds Act, it basically says that if you have an RA, if you're having a funds transfer from RA to RA, those fees need to be renegotiated annually. Then there was some misunderstanding. I think it was last year, and we had some guidance from one of the bodies saying, "Hold on, there's a misunderstanding between how Section 14 fees are processed, and they've essentially given guidance on whether this account is what's called underwritten versus non-underwritten." Short way of answering the question, Ari, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, is in a if the policy is underwritten and it has typically a life cover or something associated to it, those are the policies that need to be renegotiated every 12 months. What you typically could go and say is like, hold on, I don't know whether this policy is underwritten or non-underwritten. It's the maybe the rule of thumb is any sort of life or cover related to that policy, and it's not a pure investment, as in you exposed to investment and the underlying funds itself. If you're not sure, the FSCA has a place on the website that says you can add the provider name, for example, the Standard Retirement Fund, and you'll be able to see whether that policy, with that product itself, is underwritten or non-underwritten. What we do, which I think is a really nice benefit, RE, is we will do those checks for you. So as the products are coming over, as either whether it's underwritten or not, we aren't even going to ask you on the web, or is this product an underwritten RE or not? Because when we receive the supporting documents like the Form H, we'll see the provider, we can see the registered product that the transfer is coming from, and we will cross-reference that to see whether it is underwritten or non-underwritten. And then we also will provide a report to you, which maybe is a nice segue to go into the next section, is we'll provide reports on the web that says this is what we're doing and this is the options that's available for you. What I quickly want to do, instead of showing you a pre-recording of what those reports looks like, I'm going to exit the screen here and show you what the actual reports looks like. While I am getting that available, just a reminder, you are more than welcome to ask any questions. I'm happy to answer them in the Q&A as they're coming through. Okay, so what you should still be seeing is the web, and I'm going to quickly log into the web. For those, sure you would have seen this before. I've done the same you'd have seen the same view in masterclasses 1, 2, and 3. When you log in with your unique username and your password, it gives you access to the home screen. Where you can find your reports is on the right-hand side. So over here, we're going to click on My Business. Um, I'm going to skip calendar for a second. I know I said I will talk through it, but I'm going to quickly skip it while I'm talking about reports. So I'm going to click on View Reports. And what you'll see is we've got the option to generate like quite a few reports that will give you access to some really nice deep information that will help you manage your practice. So you can see we've got book reports available, and there's like a little info button. If you hover over it, it will tell you everything that's available. You have the option to choose the period that you're generating the report for. And this is what I mentioned earlier at the bottom. So if you're looking for your clients that are coming up for a Section 14 fee renewal, or those that have a tax directive or relief directive, as it's called, you can generate all of these things, including, you can see there's your Regulation 28 breach notification as well. So let's say I go into a few. I'm going to generate the first 4 as an example. I'm going to keep the period as the month of October to date. You've got the option to download in CSV or Excel. I'm going to quickly download in Excel. The reason we've provided the CSV report is when we initially spoke to advisors, what a few of them mentioned is that they have access to in their own CRM, and that CRM is where they want to plug in CSV type data. It's like raw data essentially. So if you use a CRM, you can download the CSV, input it into your data provider, and it should give you some access to some nice reporting. On the right, you can see what I've done over here is I've generated the report, and what you will see on the web, and apologies, it's got that little, it's covered by the document that's opened. If there's any report that does not have any data, we are going to tell you in this scenario, the transaction report cannot be generated because there are no transactions for the period. So you are going to get a notification on the web that says, hold on, information is not available because there's no data in there. So if you are thinking, hold on, I'm expecting to see 4 reports, but if I open this document as an example, it's going to open up an Excel document. And if I open up all the documents itself, if I can just quickly see if I can get rid of this presenting bar. Okay, if I open up all those documents, it's opening up in a separate screen for me. Just give me 3 seconds. I'm going to move the documents across for you. So first report is, if I'm just pull them over, you can see this is, it's our advisor, it's the client details report. And here what you'd be able to see is you can see all the personal information for your client. So if you're wanting to see, like at a glance, do I have all the personal information? Is it correct? You can see we're giving you access to lots of information, including if this account is within a family group or if it's been family linked, what the value is, and then the total accounts that are linked under that account. So giving a sense of that's your client details report and being able to see some personal information. The second report I generated is the book report. And here what you can see is it's a really nice view of showing what's happening for you as an advisor. You can see if there's a prior account number, as in an elevated client or not, where the funds came from. And then you can see some really nice, rich information to see what your fund allocation is, what your holdings are, if there's any fees, unit balances. It'll give you some really nice information into the book report itself. The last report that I generated was the account details report. And again, you don't have to remember everything that I'd mentioned earlier. You can simply click on the info buttons or hover over them to see what's in there. Here you can see a prior account number is one account. It's come from Stanlib as an example. And in the account details report, it will show you all the specific and information linked to the account. Regular contributions, regular withdrawals, what the amounts are, etc. So giving you access to some really nice report information that you also have available to you as well. Okay, that's on the reports side. Then what I quickly wanted to jump through to, if I just quickly, it's not letting me move ahead. Let's see if I can quickly move ahead. Second. Okay, so that's what our reports looks like. I'm not going to spend too much time going through the reports because I know there's a few questions that's popped up. What I want to show you is a little bit linked to Tracker. As a reminder, you've got the Tracker available. In the Tracker, if I go back to the web, I click on the home screen. It's the same if I go My Business, Track Instructions. We spend a lot of time going through this in some of the other master classes. So I'm going to try and save a little bit of time to go through the fund research tool. If you went, you can select your instruction type. You can see you can select all or simply type in, let's go new business, or let's go, let's try switch to see if there's any switch functionality or switches available. You can see the switches that are in progress. And when you click on search, this um, uh, option to do the status of in progress, if you want to look back and see what are the transactions that have already been processed, you can go and see what that looks like. So here you can see if I click, there's one instruction submitted on the 8th. Please don't worry about the time. We don't trade these instructions. We just keep them available to do demos. So here you can see we haven't yet sold the assets. And by default, we haven't bought the new assets as well. So giving you a really good view of where we are inside the tracker. This tracker is at a holistic level. It's your full tracker as your advisor at the advisor level. You also have the option, as we'll see in the slide in a second, to go at a client level to look at only one particular investor's transactions and what the instructions looks like for that client themselves. The last thing I wanted to spend just maybe a few minutes on, and I want to keep enough time because I see we've got lots of questions that's come in, is on our fund research tool. And if I go back into our web quickly, okay, so I'm going to go back home. And if I go, sorry, it just keeps opening up this. If I just go back, if I go back here on the fund research tool, you can see it's got options to do a few things. First thing is, if you are someone who's looking to get some access to some technical information, so you want to see things like, I want to see what a graph looks like, I want to see some performance information relatively quickly, let's just choose a few funds. So let's go into an equity fund. You can see I've used this before. You simply choose the fund name. You scroll down to see the fund itself. You click in the box to add information for that fund. Let's get another fund that's in a similar category. Let's go to the top 20. Exactly the same is you can see the fund. You click in the fund name. And then you can either use these little shortcuts. You can click on short-term performance, long-term. You can see fees, and you can see some risk information. Alternatively, if you want to see it in a little chart, on the bottom right, you can click on chart. And what this will do is it'll give you access to see the chart information for these two funds, and you can go and then edit the different periods that you'd like to see. So short-term performance all the way to 10-year or longer term. And then the max essentially looks at which fund has the most recent inception date, and it'll go and see what those returns have been. If I click on back on the top over here, you can see you've got the option to, as I said, chart. We can use this in the investment compare, or you can bring this over to an export, and you can also get access to do things like adding it to your favorite list. So that's if you want to see some short-term information. Here you can filter it out for different providers. If I go back, you've got the X-ray, which we've all seen before. So instead of going to X-ray, I'm going to quickly jump over to, or maybe let's go into X-ray. We're in the masterclass. Let's talk about X-ray for a second. X-ray, as I said in the previous session, you could think of it as you're going to do an X-ray, you feel that you've broke something or you've got a fracture. This is what that document would do. So if you click on view holdings, if I just choose one fund, let's just click into one fund just to show you what that looks like. Let's go the one vest ALSI 40. We're going to use a weighting of 100%. We're going to choose a benchmark of the ALSI, and you can automatically see it'll give you some real-time access to all the specific and lower levels of detail at a individual fund level, and you also have the option to generate the report. Then what you can do, I'm going to skip portfolio compare for a second. You can do investment compare. And here, if you're looking for the same, I'm going to call them static information at the same time, it'll give you access to it where you could match everything almost sort of next to each other. So let's take the equity fund I shared earlier. Let's take those. Let's take that top 20 fund again. And I think you can see exactly what the investment or investment compare is doing. It's comparing fund by fund. It'll then give you access to see the chart, and you can go and play around and choose different time period. If you click on this little drop down, it'll drop down on performance and so on. Portfolio, risk ratings, you can see everything, along with being able to print this document as well. Lastly, something which I think is really valuable is if you want to do investment compare. So let's say your client says, I'm happy for you. You want to take on a new portfolio, and you're telling the client, hold on, let me show you the work that I can do in my suggested holdings for you. So let's keep the same funds. So let's go into the equity fund. It'll load in a second. I don't want to load the Africa funds. Okay, let's go into the equity A. Oops, let's get that right. Okay, let's do the same fund, the top 20 fund. Let's keep the base currency the same. Let's just go 50-50 to make it nice and easy. Okay, once you click on preview, it'll preview the X-ray for you, but this is where you can say, hold on, I think I'm going to recommend you go into, I don't know, let's keep the benchmark the same. Let's keep the base currency the same. Also waiting. Let's use that same fund, the one vest ALSI 40 fund. We're going to go 100% into that fund. When you click on preview, it's now going to preview your proposed allocation. So let's say you're saying, my recommendation is to switch into X portfolio, what it looks like. You can go and match to see what's the current allocation look like? What are your proposed allocation? And you can do the same for all the different sections, whether it's risk information you're looking to see, whether if I just scroll down a little bit, if you're looking at trailing returns, this is that stock overlap I mentioned, two funds, you click on stock overlap and it will say you've got exposure to the same underlying holding, in this case, Anglo, Anheuser-Busch, and Naspers. You got the same allocation in both funds, and you can see, hold on, am I overly exposed to these funds or not? And then if I go up to the top, you can also click on generate report, and you can see you can add some cover information. You can add it to make it look a little bit more professional if you're looking to do any recommendations for clients. Okay, that is where I wanted to stop the tool session. I know there's lots of questions that's come in. So Sumer, are you happy for us to just go through the Q&A sessions? I know it's been quite a busy Q&A session so far. Are you happy to kick us off there?
Yes, I actually left quite a few because there's themes, and I thought it was hot topics that we could maybe touch on if that's okay. Um, there are three questions that relate to email notifications. So I'm going to read them out if that's okay. They
Yes.
both are related to the instruction tracker and the calendar. So the first one is from James, who says, speaking of on tracking instructions, please advise when we will be able to receive automated email confirmations of instructions submitted, as well as when completed, as we did with the standard platform. Logging into track instructions is more admin intensive and requires more management than receiving automated notifications. A similar question as well from Rizana, who says, do we have to keep checking the calendar or will we also receive an email notification? And then the last one was also from James, who mentioned, you mentioned reminders will auto-populate on the calendar. Is this info sent to us via email or appears as an MS Outlook calendar pop-up reminder? If not, can this be facilitated? We currently receive automated emails from Standard pertaining to living annuity income review dates or reminders. We don't have to log in and search to identify these clients' dates and reminders. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, James Rizana. I hope I'm remembering the names correctly there. It's what we 100% agree with you. We haven't yet built the preferences or the enhancement to automatically trigger email preferences to you or to your assistant, as an example. That's something that we are actively trying to see how we can solve for you as quickly as we can. I'll be honest, in our previous process, we initially thought, and some of the playbacks to advisors were, we thought that you'd be happy to log into the calendar. I'll be honest, I spoke to some advisors, and some of the things that I sat in the office and I asked him, show me what it is that you physically do every day to see what it's like. And a fairly large majority of them were saying, we log in, when I log in the first time, I want to go and track all the instructions that were completed over the last 24 hours or over the last sort of 2 days. I then want to go and have a look at all the things that's outstanding, that's coming up for review. That's where we built and enhanced the tracker, was with a similar concept saying, can we show all transactions that are still in progress, and can we show things that we still need to do some activity on, and what the underlying status is. Similarly, on the calendar, we thought about it the same way, saying, instead of bombarding you with lots of emails. So if you've got, for example, 50 clients that's coming up for reviews, do you want to constantly receive lots of transaction confirmation emails and we clog your inbox? Lots of reviews and reminders. We may overly spam you. We spoke and we played around with the idea of having a look at what the calendar looks like, and then also being able to see a really powerful tracker. Having said that, James, Rizana, we do need to look at making things fit as effectively as we can for you, as you're operating in your business. And we would like to do an enhancement where we can automatically send correspondence to you, or you can tell us, please send it to me and or my assistant, where we can send the correspondence that we typically would send to clients. Last comment over here is, we also do have a really nice piece of functionality where I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is we can also do data feeds to you. So what our data feeds do is, we've got essentially four main data feeds. The one is showing you what your assets under administration would be, or assets under management are. The second is an inflows feed, which says all the inflows you've received. Then it's an outflows data feed, and we also can do a personal details feed to you as well. So we've tried to make a few options available so that we don't bombard you with lots of emails at an individual client level. But it sounds like and we've had the feedback that we would need to do some enhancement there, and that's definitely something that we are working towards as well, James Rizana.
Thanks. I just wanted to add, we had additional feedback from Miles as well, who comments on the same. He says, hi, instead of us having to search the various anniversaries, could a monthly email be sent out to update us the anniversaries for the month? Stand-up did this and it worked well. Push notifications are a useful reminder. And then Hazel gives us really good feedback as well, telling us she loves the calendar idea. We get so many emails and sometimes lose them in the process.
Yep. Thanks for the feedback, Hazel. And sorry, the one part I completely forgot to mention, James Rizana, is even though we don't automate it into your calendar, you have the option to go and generate it in bulk. For example, look at for 1 January 2025 to end of December 2025, where we are at the moment. You can click on your on download to your calendar, and that will automatically link and sync into your calendars or add to your calendar as well.
Thank you. The next question is from Anonymous. Furthermore, the tracking instruction is not up to date. I have actively invested for over a month or two, still reflecting as waiting for client on the client tracker.
That's an interesting one, Anonymous. So, how the tracker works, and I'll share a little bit of the mechanics, is we've built what we call it's like an underlying status. You can think of it like a workflow. Maybe the closest example I can think of is if you travel, you open up your favorite Maps app and you put your location in. That map will give you a similar workflow. It's going to tell you when you leave your place, you turn left and you get onto A road. At the end of the road, you're going to turn right, and it'll tell you exactly where you need to go. That same concept of a workflow exists in our backend system. We've built it to say over a journey that your client would go through in the multiple different forms, they typically go through stages or underlying steps in that process. And for example, for the client onboarding, what should be happening is we cannot kick off any process up until your client has accepted that declaration. So there, in my mind, it says something went wrong with the workflow that says we've already invested money, but it's saying that we still need a client to accept the declaration. That in my mind says something wasn't completed in our backend system on the workflow that just ticks the box. It says you've moved from step one, you've already left your road and you've already turned to the right to move to step two of your journey. That just means something's broken there. So Anonymous, if you've got some scenarios, please send them over to me. I can have a look for you and give you some direct feedback because that shouldn't be happening. Those workflows should be. It's a very thorough process we've built into our backend system.
Thank you. And the next four questions are all related to the living annuity income process. I'm going to try and ask it in a little bit of an order.
Sure.
From Anonymous, we get the question of where can we see the income percentage and monthly amount? And then the next question is, at the top of the letter, would it not be useful to show the current annuity income and new annuity income? Justin also asks, does the final letter advise the client on what his income would look like based on the current value? And then the final question from Etna is, if the customer and planner do not respond, then the income will stay the same, but a month later you can change it.
Got it. Thank you for Anonymous, Justin, and Etna for the questions. Anonymous, the question around where can we see the income percentage? There's two places you can see the income percentage. The first is if you go and search for your client. Maybe if I can just quickly, instead of then I can at least see you. Um, so the first place to do it is when you log into the web, you've got two options. You can go and click on manage annuity income. And when you want to manage the annuity income, that will tell you what the current, what your setup is at the moment. It'll also give you access to the anniversary dates, etc. The best place I would recommend you go to see the existing income is to generate an investment review. What the investment review does is it gives you a really good sense of all the information specific to that product itself. So under the annuity, it's going to tell you what the value is. It's going to tell you if there's any tax payable or not. And then it's also going to show you some information if you want to manage things like does a beneficiary need to be updated or not. So two places to answer that is you can open up an investment review. Alternatively, you can look at it in the manage annuity section. I want to confirm we've been receiving a little bit of feedback from advisors in the annuity review session, also saying we need the option to click on a button that downloads a document that says this is what my annuity pack looks like, and that's something that we it's still very new. We haven't yet prioritized the item, but that's some of the latest feedback, Anonymous, that's coming up as well, saying give us an option to click on a button that says here's my annuity pack, and I can take this to a client if I'd like to talk through it as a pack. And then I think if I recall, Justin, I think you asked a question in the final review. Does it show the income? So yes, it does. So in the month of anniversary, when we kick off the review letter, it will tell your client, this is my market value. This is also what the annuity income is going to be going forward. The reason we can confirm that we can definitely confirm that, Justin, is we already know what that looks like. And that's the reason it kicks off that process on that letter on the 4th of the month. Is on the 1st of the month, we get to see what the anniversary value is. We then calculate what the annuity setup should be. So, for example, it's remaining at X% or Rand value, and we get to see what that looks like. And then we also confirm this is what your value is going to be going forward for the next 12 months. Maybe just a reminder, this is some clients typically go through in March. They see a change in the annuity income when the tax tables or if the tax tables do change, but that's the only thing that will affect the value that you are seeing as well. I think, Justin, you asked the other question of it'll be useful to show current annuity income and new annuity income. I don't think in the letter we show the current, we only show the new. In the letter before that, we confirm what the current annuity income is. Maybe there's something we could do and have a look at what the current or what the change has been. If you do go into the managed annuity journey, though, Justin, and you want to generate the instruction confirmation, that will show you the current setup versus the new setup as well. And then I think lastly, Etna was a question, um, I'm reading it, if the customer planner did not respond to the income. Yes, so a really good question, Etna. Thank you. What's going to happen is if you don't change the income, we there's two different scenarios. Scenario one, you chose a rand value, and that rand value may stay the same or it may change. The only time it's going to change is we'll do a calculation on the new anniversary that says you're either breaching the 17.5% bracket or you are below the 2.5% bracket, and we'll automatically push you either up or we'll pull you down. Small example, if your client's taking, let's say, 5,000 Rand a month and that equated to exactly 2.5%, market value had grown quite nicely over the year. That 5,000 Rand is now, let's say, 1.8% of the value. We will push that 5,000 up to at least the Rand value equivalent to 2.5%. Similarly, if a client is taking more than 17.5% as a Rand value, we're going to reduce that income down to the Rand value equivalent to 17.5%. As a percentage, it will remain the same going forward as a percentage, and we'll just confirm what that new value is.
A follow-up question from Justin is what would be the cutoff for the income change? Could we still process that 10 days prior to the income payment? Such a good question.
Yeah, Justin's asking how we can work an exception for you. I'm kidding, Justin. So in the process at the moment, just to confirm, the cutoff is 3 days before the anniversary date, which is the 1st of the month. I just need to go and double check, Justin. I'll drop you a mail a little bit later today. We're working on an enhancement. I want to say it's coming at the end of this year. Something in the gut says it is the end of this year. We want to give you additional functionality to go into similar to your period 10 days before before the annuity cuts off or kicks off. If I remember correctly, Justin, what we were looking to do is we were looking to allow you to amend the income all the way up until I think it's the 15th or 16th of the month, roughly around there, because we still need to kick off the aggregation process, which is where we aggregate all the living annuities across the group, and then we still got to kick off the annuity process, which in the past we paid on the 25th going forward, and now since we've changed that process, we are going to be making those payments on the 22nd, so that money is in bank account by the 25th. Okay, I see there's one more just popped in the somewhere.
Yep, one more from Nicolette. But if the anniversary was not the first of the month at standard, that is the 24th, will the anniversary at INN8 be the first?
It's such a good question. Thank you, Nicolette. So that is correct. What's going to happen is post the movement. So when you move from standard from the LISP over to INN8, if the anniversary was the 24th, we are going to make it all a consistent date as the first. We've spoken to lots of people about it. Loads of advisors love the fact that they don't have to remember 24 versus 1 versus 12. They like one consistent date. So it will move to the first. We will make sure that your client is not negatively impacted by that move. And when I say negatively impacted, if it's a monthly income, that client must get 12 equal payments or 12 payments. We don't want them to go 13 payments without changing the anniversary. So we definitely will be able to do that for you as well.
One more question.
Yeah.
Can the client tax rate be changed in INN8 from Luke?
Look, really good question. I'm really happy to say 100% you can. If you can also opt in and opt out of the SARS directives, those relief directives on the web as well. So when you log into the web, you click on manage annuity income. Just below that, you don't have to change the amount. You can change the tax at any point in the journey. If you want to go higher tax, you simply input a higher tax value. If you want to go lower tax, you will need to supply us with a tax directive. But yes, you can do that as and when and as frequently as you wish, and you can manage that directly at the tips of your fingers. See, no questions coming up. And what I want to do, we're out on time. I said we need to make 15 minutes available for the questions. So thank you to everyone that's come and spent some time with us over the last couple of weeks in these masterclasses. I hope you found value. You can always reach out to either Sumaya or I. We're happy to answer any questions. The content will be available via the CPD portal. So if you need to get access to the information, please log into the CPD portal. So thank you to you for joining us, Sumaya. Thank you for helping me co-host the sessions. To our marketing team, thank you for making these sessions available and letting them run quite smoothly with all the comms process. It's a Wednesday. I hope you have a good rest of the week further and hope to see you all soon.
INN8 is a registered trademark of Stanlib Wealth Management Pty Limited, an authorised financial services provider.